everyone, it's your boy Soblis, back with another one, and in today's video I would like to go over a topic that I find very interesting. As you know, the Kalos Tour was the tour event for this year of 2026, and my opinions on it don't matter for this video, but ultimately it ended up releasing our first 3 Legends ZA Mega Pokemon, being Mega Dragonite, Mega Malamar, and Mega Victreebell. These were some pretty cool releases, and just recently it was revealed that on the 23rd of May, this month, we will be getting Mega Falinks in the game. So I started thinking, what about the other ZA Mega Pokemon? Are these Pokemon going to be good? Are they going to be bad? And more or less, will they shake up the meta? So in today's video, we'll be going over every single ZA Mega Pokemon and seeing if they're good or not. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, starting off, we have Mega Meganium. Now this Pokemon is pretty interesting because it's the first Pokemon on this list that also has an extra added typing when Mega Evolving, that being Fairy. Unfortunately though, it doesn't have any Fairy moves in Pokemon Go, so we can't really grade it on that front as a Fairy attacker, but as a Grass type attacker, it is actually ranked number 2. Therefore, this Pokemon is actually going to be pretty useful. Keep in mind, for these rankings, we're going to be rating how good these Pokemon perform in raid battles, and also how good their typing is. So in this case, I would say Meganium's typing is really good. Grass and Fairy are 2 not very useful types, but still, it's a type matchup that we don't really have in the game yet for Mega Pokemon. So yeah, I think Mega Meganium's going to be a pretty interesting release when it finally gets dropped. But I can unfortunately not say the same for Mega Emboar. The first thing I thought when I looked at this Pokemon is this thing is just the definition of mediocre. First things first, it's just a worse version of Mega Blaziken. It is firefighting, we already have that type in the game, and it's ranked number 15 as a fire type attacker and number 11 as a fighting type attacker. Even then, there are better fire type options and fighting type options. Like I said before, Mega Blaziken. And in this case, we have Mega Lucario. Not to mention that there's another fighting type Pokemon that is straight up going to be the best Pokemon in the game that will show up later in this list. This Pokemon just sucks. Fortunately though, the water type starter we're going to talk about, Mega frealigator, is actually pretty good. It's a water dragon type, which is also yet another typing we don't really see for Mega Pokemon, and it's also ranked number 2. I actually do really like this Pokemon and believe it has a lot of potential in Pokemon Go. Unfortunately though, Primal Kyogre exists, but if you do need a good water type attacker that will come back pretty often, this being a starter Pokemon, I think it will. So I actually think it's going to be a pretty good Pokemon when it releases. Next up though, we have the Kalos starter Megas, starting with Mega Chesnaught. Now I would describe this Pokemon as a pleasant surprise, as I wasn't expecting it to be good, and I was expecting it to just be used as a Mega type Pokemon because it has the grass fighting typing, but it's ranked number 3 as a grass type attacker, making it pretty darn good for a Mega Pokemon. So ultimately I do believe this is a pretty good Mega Pokemon. But what's even better is the next Mega Pokemon we have. That Pokemon being Mega Delphox. Holy, this is just a crazy Pokemon to get released. First things first, it is a Fire Psychic type, yet another unique typing that I'm pretty sure we don't have for Mega Pokemon. Not to mention, it is also the number 9 Psychic type attacker. Purely, I feel like it's being brought down by the inevitable release of Mega Mewtwo's X and Y this summer during GoFest, in which Mega Mewtwo Y is set to have the highest DPS for a while until Mega Lucario Z ends up releasing. Spoilers for later in this video. But still, even then, it's the number 1 fire type attacker when it releases. Not even just for Mega Pokemon, just in general, it's going to be the number 1 fire type attacker, beating out Pokemon like Mega Charizard Y, Blaziken, and countless other fire type attackers that are really powerful. This Pokemon has the most potential out of everybody, and it's definitely clear why it's so high up. It has an attack of 331. It's gonna be one of the top attackers. Next up, we have Mega Greninja, and even though Mega Greninja is a pretty good Pokemon, it's not anything really special. As a dark type attacker, it's ranked 14, so don't even use it for that. And as a water type attacker, it's ranked number 3, so it is a good option if you can't get your hands on Mega frealigator or Primal Kyogre. Next up, we have a Pokemon I wasn't expecting to like as much as I actually do, that being Mega Clefable. Mega Clefable is a Fairy Flying type Pokemon, a completely unique typing, but it isn't able to be gauged as a Flying type attacker because it actually doesn't have any Flying type moves in Pokemon Go yet. So we would have to wait and see ultimately when the Mega Evolution drops if it would get anything for Flying type attacking. But it is ranked number 3 as a Fairy type attacker. Granted, Fairy types aren't really that prominent in the game, but yeah, I still recommend you get this Pokemon because it's not bad, but still is outclassed by Mega Gardevoir. Now for this next Pokemon, even though it is in the game, I still want to go over it. We have Mega Victreebell. Now Mega Victreebell is a worse version of Mega Beedrill, but unfortunately since it is not a bug type, it still does have a niche where it can be used. It is ranked as a number 3 poison type attacker, in which I don't recommend you use it because the poison typing isn't really that useful since the only thing it's good against is Fairy, and Fairy isn't that useful, so you won't really be using poison attackers that much, meaning its grass type attacking status is way more useful to know, in which it's number 10. I just don't think this Pokemon is worth it. It really sucks, and I don't care for it at all. Kind of like its counterpart, which we will get to when we get to the Colossian Pokemon, but just don't get Mega Victreebell when it comes back. Now, unfortunately, the next Pokemon we're going over kind of got shafted by the game it's in, but we have Mega Starmie. I think this Pokemon is so funny to the point where it would have been cool if it was actually good in Pokemon Go, but it's not good, just alright. It's Psychic type, in which it's competing against Mega Delphox, Mega Alakazam, Mega Mewtwo's X and Y, some Psychic type legendary Pokemon that are actually kind of good. And it's just, it has so much Pokemon it's competing against that are better than it. And it is also a Water Psychic type. I'm pretty sure this is a unique typing for Mega Evolution, but there's not many instances where you need to boost the Water and Psychic typing at the same exact time. But it actually has really good stats. It's just brought down by the fact that Starmie has no good attacks in Pokemon Go. So with the no good attacks, it's ranked 14 as a water type and 15 as a psychic type, which for psychic type, it doesn't really suck that much, but for water typing, it actually could have been in the top 10 if they just gave this thing some better moves. Yet another Pokemon that's already in the game is Mega Dragonite. Now, I do love this Pokemon, but it is unfortunate because it's not really that good as a Dragon type attacker. The Dragon type is really useful, but I do recommend you get this Pokemon if you just need a good Dragon type Pokemon that's extremely easy to get entry level. But since this thing did release in Super Mega Raids, I don't know when it's coming back. It is ranked 11 as a Dragon type attacker, and it's not really bad, it's just not good enough as a Dragon type. Unfortunately, I didn't mention Dragonite's flying typing because it didn't really make the cut, but this next Pokemon, Mega Skarmory, is actually ranked number 8 as a flying type attacker. Somehow, its steel type ranking is 13, being lower than its flying type ranking, but like, that's not really that bad. Not to mention steel flying is also not a bad typing, because there are events where a few steel flying type Pokemon are actually available. Overall, I think Mega Skarmory isn't anything crazy, but if you do need a good entry-level flying type attacker, I do think this is going to be one of the more common Mega Evolutions when it releases. So one Pokemon that I'm not going to take any slander towards is Mega Frosslass. This Pokemon is just the best. Ranked number 3 as an Ice type attacker, it is reasonably pretty strong for the category it's in. Not to mention ranked number 8 as a Ghost type attacker, just amazing. Being an Ice and Ghost type alone makes this Pokemon pretty useful as it's a typing that we don't really have. Yet, for Halloween and the Christmas events, you can use this Pokemon. It fits into both of those categories. This is just a great Pokemon that I can't wait to see in Pokemon Go. And I recommend when it drops, raid the heck out this thing. This is a very good Mega Pokemon. Now this is a Pokemon I really wanted to go over. Mega Excadrill is just so impressive. First things first, Ground and Steel is actually not a bad typing for a Mega Pokemon. Not to mention its attack being 322, it's gonna have a high DPS. It's going to be the number 6 Steel type attacker and the number 3 Ground type attacker. Not to mention that as a steel type attacker, it's good entry level, and as a ground type attacker, it's just straight up going to be one of your best options. Excadrill has been a Pokemon that's been on my mind for a while, as I believe it's kind of been falling out of the meta ever since Mega Garchomp ended up releasing in Pokemon Go. But with this new Mega form, I believe Excadrill will climb its way or drill its way back into the meta. Unfortunately, we're going to have to move on from Mega Excadrill to Mega Scoliopede. Now, the reason why I'm saying unfortunately is because Mega Scoliopede is not a bad Pokemon, but it's a worse version of Mega Beedrill, the Pokemon that introduces you to the concept of Mega Evolution in Pokemon Go. Now, the reason why I dislike this so much is because as soon as you start getting into Mega Evolution with Pokemon Go, the first Pokemon they give you is a Beedrill. And if you can find a good Weedle or Kakuna in the wild, which they're spawning all the time everywhere and you can always trade for them, you can get a good Mega Beedrill. Therefore, if you need any kind of bug type attacker or poison type attacker, you would go for Mega Beedrill instead of something like Mega Scoliopede, in which you'd actually have to get raid passes in raid in order to get. So what would you do? Would you take the free top bug type and poison type attacker, or the paid only top poison type attacker Mega Pokemon? Exactly. Now that we're done talking about that, if a Pokemon says non-applicable on this list, like Mega Scrafty does, there's literally nothing worth talking about. It doesn't even reach top 20 as an attacker in both of its typings, meaning Mega Scrafty is literally not worth getting or using. But I still recommend you get it if you do want to complete your Mega Dex. Okay, moving on from that, one question that I believe in Pokemon Go that will never be answered for me is why Mega Eeleektross or just normal Eeleektross are even going to be a part of this game or even in this game. Like, you're telling me you're a single type Mega Pokemon, and then the one thing that makes you cool, the fact that you're the only electric type with Levitate, meaning you're the only Pokemon that can't get dealt super effective damage by anything, you don't even have in the one game where it would be kind of important. Yeah. It's also ranked number 12 as an electric type attacker, so this just seems like a very alright Mega Pokemon. Definitely just Dex filler, especially since you don't want to use a single type Mega Pokemon as your Mega of choice when grinding a special event. Okay, this next Pokemon I heavily underestimated. The big Mega Chandelure. Yeah, this thing is just fire, straight up, no pun intended. Ghost and Fire typing is a very unique typing, not to mention its DPS is just extremely high for no reason. 335. Absolutely insane. The only thing bringing this thing down is kind of just the fact that it's a glass cannon. Once again, no pun intended. Its stamina is 155, which I'm pretty sure does go into HP, therefore meaning that one super effective attack to the dome immediately knocks it out. But it is ranked number 5 as a fire type attacker and number 3 as a ghost type attacker. This thing is definitely trying to take Mega Gengar's spot. Absolutely insane. I recommend you get this thing as soon as it drops. Okay. The next Pokemon is also a fire type. It's Mega Pyroar. It's number 17 as a fire type attacker. It's fire normal typing. Who is insane enough to use that? Yeah, this thing just sucks. It's trying to be too much. Like, it wants to be a defensive Pokemon, and then it wants to be an attacker, and then it wants to have a... Like, this Pokemon doesn't know what it is. Okay, yeah, it's just trash. But unfortunately, the mediocrity doesn't stop with Mega Pyroar. We have Mega Barbaracle and Mega Malamar next. Mega Malamar is actually in the game, and I'm genuinely angry that they decided to release this of all Mega Pokemon to be one of the first ZA Mega Pokemon to get dropped in Pokemon Go. But yet again, it would have gotten dropped later down, and I would have been probably even more mad at that. But Mega Barbaracle would have been a cool option because it's at least a unique typing of rock fighting typing, especially compared to its original typing of rock water. But these Pokemon just suck. Like, they're non-applicable. There's nothing to really talk about here. They're just trash. But I'm mainly mad about Mega Malamar because, like, its stats just barely reach the 200s. Moving on from those two, we have Mega Dragalge. Unfortunately, I think this Pokemon is just alright. As a poison type attacker, it is ranked number 11, so I don't think it's that bad. It's just not anything really special. Okay, now entering the ring is my GOAT, that being Mega Hawlucha. Now, finally, after a bunch of mediocre Mega Pokemon, the Kalos region brings us a pretty darn good one. Mega Hawlucha is ranked number 3 as a fighting type attacker, while holding the fighting flying type, which isn't that bad as a Mega type, as these are both typings that are actually pretty good, and that we've seen featured with each other before. Though not directly, mainly during GoFest Pokemon with typings like that would just be spawning. Still, Mega Hawlucha is a pretty good Pokemon, and overall I could see it getting a lot of play as a fighting type raid attacker against some rock type Pokemon or ice type Pokemon or whatever you use fighting type Pokemon against. Okay then, moving on, we have Mega Drampa. Yeah, Unk really lost his sauce. Not even gonna lie, how do you get younger and somehow still remain to be one of the suckiest Pokemon in the game? This thing isn't a good dragon type attacker, and it can't be a good normal type attacker because normal doesn't really attack for anything when you think about it. So yeah, this Pokemon just freaking sucks. Moving on, we actually have the next ZA Mega Pokemon that will be releasing in Pokemon Go. That being Mega Falinks on the 23rd of May this month. Yeah, I just don't like this Pokemon. Yeah, it is number 16 as a fighting type attacker, but once again, it's single typed and pretty much like a worse version of Mega Eeleektross, but for the fighting typing instead. Yeah, it's just not a good Pokemon. Okay, moving on from all of those mediocre Pokemon, we finally have a good Pokemon to talk about before we get into the Mega Dimension DLC, starting with Mega Eternal Flower Floette. Yeah, this Pokemon is great. Yeah, even though it is a pure fairy typing, I do believe as an attacker, this Pokemon is really good, ranking number 1 as a fairy type attacker, being over Mega Gardevoir. Unfortunately though, this is the reason why Mega Clefable isn't really that good, but still, Eternal Floette is a pretty good pick. Not to mention, it could get even better if its signature move, Light of Ruin, is actually really good in Pokemon Go. And moving on, we have Mega Rayquaza's ultimate rival, the protector of the earth, Mega Zygarde. This Pokemon has so much potential, being ranked as the number 1 dragon type attacker when it releases. Yeah, it is going to be a high DPS attacker, but overall it's not going to be anything like Mega Mewtwo Y or hell even Mega Lucario Z when that thing releases. But I have to say, its attack is just outstanding alongside its stamina, and its typing actually isn't that bad. Covering 2 very meta-relevant typings like Dragon and Ground at the same time is impressive. Not to mention, it is something we do have, but because Mega Zygarde is just so much better than Mega Garchomp, including Mega Garchomp Z, because it then loses the Ground typing, I believe that this Pokemon will literally take over as, you know, the new Mega Garchomp when it ends up releasing. But yeah, this is a pretty darn good Pokemon. Great, now with all of the Legend ZA Mega Evolutions dealt with, now that means we're only halfway done. Now we can get to the Mega Dimension DLC Mega Pokemon. Luckily, there's only 19 of them, so it's not going to be as long as the prior section, but still, there's a lot to talk about here in comparison to the base game ZA Megas. Now to start things, let's go over Mega Raichu's X and Y. Now, unfortunately, Mega Raichu X, the worst out of the two, somehow manages to be worse than Mega Eeleektross. So I unfortunately think this Pokemon is not going to see much play. The fact that it's worse than one of the worst Mega Pokemon to ever be, introduced into Pokemon Go, since the one gimmick it has doesn't exist, this Pokemon doesn't have anything special going for it, making it kind of just useless. It doesn't even have an extra added on typing, despite it being pretty much tradition to give the X version of a Mega Evolution a secondary typing. Now Mega Raichu Y though is completely different. Technically, it's what most people are going to be using. Since Mega Zeraora later on this list is the number 1 electric type attacker, we will get more into that. You are going to want to use this one more since it's going to be more accessible in comparison to a mythical like Mega Zeraora. So yeah, Mega Raichu Y is going to be good. Meanwhile, Mega Raichu X is just not going to be that great. So I recommend if they come to raids, you raid Mega Raichu Y. Now, in this next Pokemon's case, it is really sad that it is this way, but we have Mega Chimecho. Yeah, it's not applicable. Even though it gains the Steel typing, we don't really have any Steel moves to go off of, so we don't even know how good it's going to be as a Steel type attacker. Even then, its stats are pretty mediocre. It's really unfortunate too. I feel like this is one of the coolest Mega Pokemon introduced, and it's not going to be that useful as a raid attacker in Pokemon Go. But I still recommend you get it because Psychic and Steel is a pretty unique typing. Moving on from that, we now have Mega Staraptor. Now, Mega Staraptor actually isn't that bad. It's ranked number 3 as a flying type attacker, so personally, I believe it's actually up there. Also, not to mention, thanks to its fighting typing, it gains new resistances. So this thing is actually very versatile in raids, especially since the flying typing is a very useful typing for raid attacking. So yeah, I think Mega Staraptor is going to be pretty good, and I recommend when this thing drops you get it because it's actually going to be a pretty insane Pokemon. Okay, now moving on, we have Mega Golurk. Mega Golurk is a ground ghost typing, which is a pretty unique typing for a Mega Pokemon, but it's unfortunately brought down by the fact that Mega Chandelure and Mega Excadrill exist. These Mega Pokemon already outclass it, not to mention that there's other Pokemon like Primal Kyogre and Giratina Origin Form that are just so much better as raid attackers than it, and you don't need to Mega Evolve them, meaning that you're not forced to have one. So yeah, this Pokemon isn't bad, it's just unfortunately outclassed. I still like Mega Golurk though, so I do think you should get it if you don't have any good ghost or ground type attackers when it releases. Next up, we have a Pokemon that I feel like got shafted by the developers. Unfortunately, that is going to be Mega Meowstic. Mega Meowstic is ranked number 19 as a Psychic type attacker, and Mega Mewtwo Y, Mega Delphox, Mega Mewtwo X, Mega Starmie, all of the Pokemon that I just listed are Mega Evolutions. One of them is extremely easy to get, and like they're all just better than this thing. It's unfortunate too because Mega Alakazam is also there, and Mega Alakazam has been in this game way longer, and it's also one of the worst options for a Mega type Pokemon because it only has one typing. And honestly, it kind of sucks because I really do like this Mega Evolution. When I first saw it, in my head, it was the first Mega Pokemon that I'd seen from Mega Legends ZA where I truly believed it was perfect. This is just an amazingly designed and looking Mega Pokemon, and it really does suck that they not only gave it Trace in Pokemon Champions, but also just made it a worse version of Mega Alakazam. Okay, moving on to the last two non-applicable Mega Pokemon on this list, we have Mega Tatsugiri and Mega Crabominable. Mega Crabominable just lacks good moves, and Mega Tatsugiri is just competing against too many strong Pokemon in both of its typings being Water and Dragon. Overall, these Pokemon aren't necessarily bad, they're just alright. But I would say this right now, Mega Tatsugiri is pretty much useless as there's another better Water Dragon type Pokemon that will definitely be more available when Mega Tatsugiri drops. And for Crabominable, its typing of Ice and Fighting is actually really unique, so I recommend you get it for that, so you can get Ice Fighting Mega Boost with Mega Crabominable. Okay then, now let's move on to the next Mega Pokemon being Mega Golisopod, which shockingly isn't that bad. It gains the Steel typing over the Bug Water typing, and it's also pretty good, being ranked number 5 as a Bug type attacker. Now, you might not think as a Bug type attacker that's that important, but it's mainly its TDO and its ability to tank hits that has it ranked so high, despite its oddly low stats in attacking. Its defense, like I said, is really high, so if you want, you can just use this thing to stall out Mega Boost for Steel or Bug type Pokemon for a tougher raid boss where you need those kind of attackers. Alright then, for this next Pokemon, it's not really in the game, and it doesn't seem like it's close to getting released. So for Mega Scovillain, we actually get to predict a few things. Starting with how good it would be as a Grass type attacker, being a number 12 Grass type attacker. Yeah, that's not really that crazy, but yet again, it's not really going to be an insane Fire type attacker, since there is just so much Fire type competition that is better than it. But it, like I said, has the Grass and Fire typing, which is an extremely unique typing. Not to mention, it's the only Pokemon that you can pin against a Grass type raid boss, and still be super effective against it, although not too super effective because it is ranked in, I'm pretty sure, the 30s as a Fire type attacker, so it's not really that good. But still, this is a very unique Pokemon, and I'm very excited to see what it's able to do when it gets released. Alright then, so before we get into the mythical and legendary Pokemon and their Mega Evolutions, let's go over one of the strongest Pokemon on this list that isn't a mythical or mega Pokemon, being Mega Baxcalibur. Mega Baxcalibur contains the Ice and Dragon typing, which is really good. It's the typing of Kyurem's Black and White, and also just normal Kyurem. So yeah, it is pretty darn cool that this Pokemon contains such a rare typing tied to very powerful legendary Pokemon. Not to mention, for Kyurem, it is actually taking its place as the #1 ice attacker when it releases. Even then, it's still pretty impressive that competing against so many powerful Dragon-type Pokemon, this Pokemon takes the #6 spot as a Dragon-type attacker. This Pokemon is just insane. It's just absolutely crazy, and I find it just insane that a pseudo-legendary Pokemon with a Mega Evolution is just taking over as the #1 Ice-type attacker and is actually competing very well against these other powerful Dragon-type Pokemon. So yeah, when Mega Baxcalibur releases, I don't even recommend you get it. You have to get it. Like, it's not even a recommendation, it's a guarantee. When this thing releases, you need to rate it and you need to grind the heck out of this thing and get it to super max level Mega, or whatever it's called, and just get it to Mega level 4 as soon as humanly possible, because this thing is just insanely good and insanely meta relevant. Alright then, starting the legendary Pokemon section, we have Mega Heatran. Let's freaking go. I was really hoping when I saw the leaks that this Mega Evolution was real, because I actually don't hate Heatran. I think it's a very cool Pokemon with a lot of potential, and it reaches this potential with this Mega Evolution, being ranked as the #2 best Fire-type attacker. Unfortunately, yes, being a legendary Pokemon though, it still is worse than Mega Delphox as a Fire-type attacker, but still, this is a really good, Fire-type attacker. And I do see this Pokemon getting released as kind of like a side release during a Go Fest event, because it still is really good. But I feel like the Pokemon that they picked for Mega Evolutions this time are actually Pokemon that needed them, as this really does push Mega Heatran up into that upper echelon of good Mega Pokemon. And it also has the Fire Steel typing, which is a pretty useful Mega typing. Next up is the first Pokemon on this list I actually have a Shundo of, that being Mega Darkrai. I cannot wait for this Pokemon to release. When I am able to Mega Evolve into my Shundo Mega Darkrai, it's about to be my biggest flex. But Mega Darkrai is somehow ranked as just the #6 Dark-type attacker, yet it does have a niche being able to be used as like a pseudo Ghost-type attacker and stuff with Snarl and Shadow Ball. But unfortunately, I thought it would be ranked higher. This kind of removes normal Darkrai's biggest problem, and that's the fact that it cannot tank an attack. When Mega Darkrai gets released, then you will have a Darkrai available for you that is not only better than normal Darkrai, but can also actually tank an attack. Now, what could make this thing better is if they release Dark Void on this guy. Dark Void is still yet to be introduced into the game, and if Dark Void is absolutely broken, then, Mega Darkrai will be absolutely broken as a Dark-type attacker. There unfortunately is a better Dark-type attacker later on in this list, but once again, I cannot wait for Mega Darkrai, and I recommend you get this thing. Shundo Mega Darkrai video will be out when this thing drops. Next up is the mythical Pokemon, Magearna. Now, Magearna can't be used as a Fairy-type attacker, but I will talk about it later. But as a Steel-type attacker, it is ranked number 10. Now, I don't really have much to say about this Pokemon. It's not really anything special or crazy, and it's going to definitely be very hard to get, as I can see this Pokemon being released as a Go Fest mythical. So, yeah, Mega Metagross is going to outclass it in every way, shape, and form. Unless it ends up getting its special move, Flare Cannon, which it could become a pretty decent Fairy-type attacker, or hell, even one of the best Fairy-type attackers. So yeah, just watch out for this Pokemon. Now this next Pokemon is about to have its release in Pokemon Go soon, but we're still waiting to see on if the Mega will be releasing with it. This Pokemon being Mega Zeraora. Now Mega Zeraora is pretty cool. The main implication with this thing is that it's way different from any other raid attacker here, because it is ranked to #1 as an Electric-type attacker. And thanks to it being a mythical, you can only get one Zeraora per, account. Therefore, that means Mega Zeraora is the one occasion where you would actually want to Mega Evolve it over any other Electric-type Pokemon you have in your account. Via it being the #1 raid attacker for Electric types, it's actually perfect. And since there's only one, that means it's not really outclassed by its prior version. So you're not really encouraged to use a completely different Mega Pokemon over a Mega Zeraora. The only thing holding this thing back is the fact that it's a pure electric type, therefore meaning when it Mega Evolves, it is only going to give you Candy Boosts and just Mega Boosts in general for the electric typing. And that's the only thing holding this Pokemon back. Otherwise, this is like literally one of the best Mega Pokemon, and it's one that I cannot wait to see in Pokemon Go because it's going to shake up electric type meta completely. Now, before we get onto the Z Mega Evolutions, I knew this was going to happen at some point in the video, but I ended up forgetting a Mega Pokemon, that being Mega Glimmora. Mega Glimmora does have an attack of 300, which I feel like is impressive, and the unique typing of Rock Poison. So yeah, I actually do think it has a, very high chance of being a meta-relevant Pokemon, especially since it is in the top 5 for rock attackers, and it is number 5. So yeah, Mega Glimmora, when it releases, just stay tuned for that and rate it because it actually is going to be pretty good. And overall, if it gets some poison type attacks, it's probably going to be one of the top poison type attackers as well. Alright then, now that we're done with that, we can finally go over the Z Mega Evolutions like I promised, starting with Mega Lucario Z. And this thing is just insane. It's the number 1 fighting type attacker and number 2 steel type attacker, but that's not even what's important about this Pokemon. What's truly important about this Pokemon is the fact that it is also just the number 1 attacker in Pokemon Go in general. It has the highest DPS out of any other Pokemon in Pokemon Go, outranking overpowered Mega Evolutions like Mega Rayquaza and Mega Mewtwo Y. So you just know this thing is overpowered. Overall, I would say that this is probably the best Mega Pokemon on this list. Like, its typing isn't bad. These are very much 2 meta-relevant typings that you actually do want Candy Boost for a lot. So with that, I gotta say this is probably gonna get our S+ tier if another Mega Z Pokemon doesn't step up and get better. In which that statement already gets a pretty good start with something like Mega Absol Z. Mega Absol Z gains the Ghost typing, making it actually pretty good. The only thing it's weak to now is Fairy typing. So yeah, that's pretty cool in my opinion. This thing is ranked number 2 as a Dark type attacker. Like I said, Mega Darkrai would get outclassed by a Pokemon later on in this list, and this is it. And overall, if it gains any Ghost type moves, say Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, it will become a very good Ghost type attacker. So once again, this Pokemon is pretty darn good, and it's keeping up with the trend of these Mega Z Pokemon being pretty amazing. Moving on, we now have the last Z Mega Pokemon being Mega Garchomp Z. And for this Pokemon, I just straight up don't understand the vision. I don't know what they were trying to do with this Pokemon. Like, what was the goal? What was the ultimate objective creating this thing? It is ranked number 5 as a Dragon-type attacker, which is pretty good. I mean, it is ranked higher than Mega Excalibur, something I view as one of the best Mega Pokemon on this list of new Mega Pokemon. But what's holding it back is the fact that it loses that ground typing, and it also is only able to attack for 1 typing, meaning you'd have to create a completely separate Garchomp that specifically attacks for the Dragon typing. Even then, it is still outclassed by many Dragon-type Pokemon, and it would just make more sense to use a Dragon-type Mega with a double type, because you'd want that extra boost. Unless they introduce something special with these Mega Z Pokemon, I don't see a reason why you would want to use Mega Garchomp Z, but if you need it for the decks, you may as well get it for the decks. Okay then, so with that, that's going to be the end of today's video. And I want to end it off showing you guys a tier list, in which here it is. This is going to be what I rank every Mega Pokemon as, F being Mega Pokemon that I feel like you can skip out on completely. They're just filler releases. D being Pokemon where you should at least like debate if you should catch them or not. C is just like, they're good, just not good enough. And then from B to S+, those are the Pokemon you definitely want to raid, as in they're good substitute attackers, they're good attackers, or they're just overall the number 1 DPS Pokemon in Pokemon Go. So with that, that's going to be the end of today's video, and that's also going to be your boy Soblis signing out. Peace, everybody, have a good day, and some might say mega day.